I'm Brittany Lewis with Forbes Breaking News. Last week, Biden's ATF director nominee, Stephen Duddlebach, testified before the Senate Judiciary Committee. Senator Richard Blumenthal praised President Biden's commitment to combating the surge in violent crime in communities across the United States. The senator also used his time to call for more gun violence prevention reforms. The Connecticut Democrat believes that the ATF must be independent beyond the influence and grip of the gun lobby. Let's listen in for his full line of questioning.
You in thanking the extraordinary professionals of ATF, the agency that you've been nominated to lead, having been a federal prosecutor, the United States Attorney in Connecticut for 4.5 years. I worked with this agency and I have followed their work over the years, and there's no more dedicated and brave group of professionals. And what we've seen over the last 24 hours, again, we've seen it repeatedly over these years, is the devotion of local law enforcement and state police to stopping gun violence and rescuing the victims and survivors of gun violence in this country. President Biden has made it clear that his administration is committed to combating the surge in violent crime in communities across the United States. But as we know, violent crime cannot be stopped without also stopping gun violence. Firearms make violent crime all the more violent and all the more likely to be deadly. The best laws on the books are dead letter if they are not enforced effectively, and it will be your job to make sure that the premier federal agency responsible for gun violence has the mandate and the independence to pursue it diligently, fearlessly, and ferociously. You come here at a moment of extraordinary anguish, anxiety, and anger in this country. And I believe that we must move forward with gun violence prevention reforms that will make our laws more effective and give you more tools that you need in saving communities and individual lives. I believe in the Second Amendment. It's the law of the land. There are measures we can take that are consistent with the Second Amendment that will separate people from firearms if they are dangerous to themselves or others. Red flag statutes, background checks, safe storage, like Ethan's law, ghost guns bans, and others. When it comes to tackling these kinds of problems, we need an agency that is not only independent, but will be perceived as independent beyond the influence and grip of the gun lobby, which all too often has been perceived as having undue impact on the ATF. And that perception itself can undermine an agency's effectiveness. So as much as I feel that you will bring new leadership, I think it is important that we move forward to give you that opportunity as quickly as possible, particularly seizing this moment of extraordinary challenge to make sure you have a mandate from the United States Congress to do your job. Let me ask you how you will draw on your background as a prosecutor to make sure that you're effective in this job.
Senator, I have spent the vast majority of my career as a prosecutor. Over 20 years, I've worked in, and it is a core value of mine, something that I have lived with and that I will continue, that politics can play no role in law enforcement, none at all. I worked under Republican administrations and I worked under Democratic administrations as a federal prosecutor. And I have lived that credo and I vow to continue to do it because people need to have confidence that people in law enforcement's only agenda is to enforce the law, and if you're at the ATF, to catch the bad guys and protect the public. I like to think that my record doing that is one of the reasons why I have support of over 140 senior Justice Department officials and a bipartisan support support from Deputy Attorney General for Donald Trump and the Deputy Attorney General for President Bush, as well as the Deputy Attorney General for President Obama, from Assistant Attorney Generals from both sides of the aisle, and from U.S. attorneys in my state who were both appointed by President Trump and in other states. And I vow to never let politics in any way influence my action as ATF director.
You have a record of combating, in fact, a track record of combating extremism, in particular religion-motivated violence. While U.S. Attorney, you were praised by both Republicans and Democrats for combating that kind of violent extremism. We know that a number of gun violence incidents, some of the most deadly, most recently in Buffalo, but also Oak Creek, Charleston, Charlottesville, Pittsburgh, El Paso, were motivated by this kind of white supremacy, anti-religion, particularly religious faith kind of violence. How will that experience by you in dealing with such incidents be part of your motivation here?
Senator, I have seen I started 30 years ago, I've seen both the incidents and the audacity of anti-religious violence grow over time. It was there when I started, but things have seemed to unfortunately go in the wrong direction. And I will say this as somebody who's a prosecutor and as somebody who's raising Jewish children as a religious minority in this country. I spent time in Pittsburgh. I talked to people at Tree of Life. When I was U.S. Attorney, the largest mosque in my state was torched. An African-American church was torched. We caught a fellow in Toledo who had stockpiled. This is a convicted killer, somebody who had shot 3 people, killed 1, had a felony record for that, and we found him in Toledo with 18 weapons, 40,000 rounds of ammunition, a Kevlar vest, and surveillance evidence that he was scouting out and following the head of the Jewish Community Federation in Detroit and the head of the NAACP in Detroit. And thankfully, the Joint Terrorism Task Force caught that person. Senator, this is part of who I am, and it is a core American value to be able to have religious freedom and to worship without fear of violence. We have to make sure we protect that.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Delback. Thanks, Mr. Chairman.